I was standing in their dining room, while 12 people stared at bank statements proving I'd paid for the house they were eating in. My daughter-in-law was shaking. Her father looked like he might throw up. And my son? My son couldn't look me in the eye. But that moment didn't start there. It started 3 weeks earlier, when my own son told me I wasn't welcome for Christmas. If you've ever been underestimated, disrespected, or quietly used by the people who should have protected you, hit like, subscribe, and stay with me. Because this story isn't just about revenge. It's about finally choosing self-respect. My name is Daniel Cruz. I'm 62 years old. I've lived my entire life believing that if you worked hard, kept your word, and loved your family fiercely, things would work out the way they were supposed to. Chicago taught me how to work. Life taught me how to endure. I grew up on the South Side, the kind of neighborhood where you learned early that nothing was given freely. My father worked construction until his knees gave out. My mother cleaned offices downtown after dark. There were no shortcuts. Just calloused hands and tired eyes and the quiet pride of knowing you earned what you had. That pride mattered to me. It still does. I built my own small remodeling business from the ground up. Tile work, kitchens, bathrooms, basements people had given up on. I wasn't flashy. I didn't advertise much. But my phone rang because I did good work and I showed up when I said I would. When my wife Elena and I bought our first house, it wasn't pretty. Drafty windows, cracked plaster, a roof that leaked every time it rained hard enough. But it was ours. We fixed it together, one paycheck at a time. Elena had a way of humming while she cleaned. Soft, off-key, completely unconcerned with whether anyone was listening. She believed in family dinners, in showing up, in feeding people even when money was tight, because food was love and love was non-negotiable. When she got sick, we didn't talk about fear. We talked about practical things. About our son Alex. About making sure he finished college. About not being a burden. She died on a Tuesday morning in February, the snow still dirty on the sidewalks. After the funeral, I went home alone and sat at the kitchen table until it got dark. That was the moment Alex became my whole world. Everything I did after that was for him. So when he met Lauren, I tried. God knows I tried. She was polished in a way that made you feel unfinished just standing next to her. She corrected waiters gently but loudly. She talked about travel the way some people talk about grocery shopping. Casually. Like it was normal to fly somewhere just to reset. I told myself she made Alex happy. That had to be enough. When they got engaged, I paid for part of the wedding. When they wanted a house in Naperville, I helped with the down payment. When Alex lost his job the first time, I covered the mortgage just for a few months. A few months turned into years. Every month, on the 15th, the same amount left my account. Quiet. Automatic. No discussion. I stopped asking questions because asking made me feel small. Because love isn't supposed to keep score. I drove an older truck. Skipped vacations. Let repairs pile up on my own place. I told myself this was what fathers did. And then came Christmas. I was sitting on their couch, the leather one Lauren insisted on because fabric held smells. When Alex cleared his throat, I recognized the sound immediately. It was the same sound he made as a kid when he broke something and hadn't figured out how to tell me yet. "Dad," he said, "there's something we need to talk about." My body reacted before my mind did. My shoulders tightened. My hands folded together. Waiting. Lauren wasn't in the room. That should have told me everything. Alex didn't look at me. He stared at the coffee table instead, fingers worrying the edge of a coaster. "My parents-in-law are coming for Christmas," he said. "They have certain expectations." Expectations. The word landed wrong. I smiled anyway. "That's fine. I'll make the turkey. The one with the citrus and garlic. Your mom's recipe." He swallowed. "That's actually the thing, Dad. Lauren thinks it might be better if we keep Christmas small this year." I waited. Silence stretched between us, thick and uncomfortable. "Her parents aren't really used to," he hesitated, "different traditions." Different? I felt heat crawl up my neck. A familiar sensation. The kind you learn to ignore when you've spent your life in rooms where you weren't quite welcome. "What does that mean?" I asked. He finally looked at me then. And the look on his face wasn't anger. Or defiance. It was shame. "They're very formal," he said quietly. "They care about appearances, conversation, presentation." I glanced around the room. At the kitchen I'd helped renovate. At the floors I'd paid for. At the Christmas tree brushing the ceiling, decorated in a color-coordinated theme that felt more like a showroom than a home. And where does that leave me? I asked. Alex's jaw tightened. Dad, please don't make this harder than it already is. Harder. As if I were the inconvenience. The room felt smaller. The air heavier. I suddenly became aware of my hands, rough, scarred, permanently marked by decades of work. I rubbed my thumb against my palm, grounding myself. So you're saying, I said slowly, that I'm not welcome for Christmas? He nodded. Just once. I don't remember standing up. I just remember the strange calm that settled over me, like my body had made a decision my heart hadn't caught up to yet. Where should I go? I asked. Alex hesitated. Maybe Aunt Rose's. Or we could do something after the holidays. You know, when things settle down. After. Like Christmas was a meeting that could be rescheduled. I nodded. Smiled again. The kind of smile you give when you don't trust your voice. I understand, I said. I walked past the framed photos on the wall. Each one a little more polished than the last. My face gradually disappearing from the story of their life. At the door I paused. Merry Christmas, son. Outside the cold hit me hard. Sure. Honest. The kind of cold that didn't pretend to be anything else. I sat in my truck for a long time without starting the engine. Watching the lights in their windows. Listening to the quiet tick of cooling metal. I thought about Elena. About her humming. About how she would have defended me without hesitation. And for the first time since she died, I felt something break. Not loudly. Cleanly. Something inside me finally understood the truth I'd been avoiding for years. I wasn't family to them. I was support. And support, once it becomes inconvenient, is the first thing people cut loose. That night, as I drove home through streets lit by Christmas decorations and other people's joy, one thought kept repeating in my head, steady and unavoidable. If I wasn't welcome at their table, then I didn't belong under their roof either. And that was the moment everything changed. The drive home that night felt longer than it should have. Not because of traffic, Chicago traffic was nothing new, but because every red light gave my thoughts time to sharpen. Every stop sign forced me to replay the conversation again and again, searching for the moment I could have said something different. I didn't find one. By the time I pulled into my driveway, my chest ached the way it used to after 12-hour days laying tile. A dull, persistent pressure. The kind that doesn't go away just because you sit down. Inside the house was quiet. Too quiet. No music. No laughter. No smell of food simmering. Just the faint hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of a clock that suddenly felt very loud. I hung my coat on the same hook it had been on for 20 years and stood there longer than necessary, staring at it like it belonged to someone else. My phone buzzed. Lauren's name lit up the screen. I considered letting it ring. I should have. But a lifetime of being reasonable kicked in before my pride could catch up. Daniel, she said, her voice smooth and clipped, like she was already late for something more important. I heard things got a little emotional today. Emotional. I leaned against the kitchen counter and closed my eyes. You told my son I wasn't welcome for Christmas, I said. That's not emotional. That's deliberate. She sighed. Loud enough for me to hear it. A practice sound. The kind people use when they're about to explain why you're the problem. You're taking this personally, she said. It's not about you. It's about balance. Balance, I repeated. Yes. My parents value a certain atmosphere. And frankly, Daniel, you don't always fit into that. There it was. Not loud. Not angry. Just honest enough to sting. I waited. Let the silence stretch. And what exactly don't I fit into? I asked. She hesitated for half a second too long. They're educated people, she said finally. They enjoy elevated conversation. Travel. Art. World affairs. It wouldn't be fair to put you in a position where you'd feel out of place. Out of place. My fingers dug into the edge of the counter. The laminate was chipped there, something I'd been meaning to fix for years but never had the money for. Lauren, I said carefully, I've paid your mortgage for 5 years. Silence. That doesn't buy social compatibility, she replied coolly. And honestly, my parents are sensitive. They notice things. Things like what? Accents. Food. Music. Presentation. Each word landed like a slap. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears now. Slow. Heavy. Controlled. The kind of calm that comes right before something dangerous. So the man paying for your lifestyle embarrasses you, I said. But the money doesn't. She laughed. Actually laughed. Please don't make this about class or culture, she said. That's not a good look. A good look. And Elena? I asked quietly. Did she have a good look? The line went still. At least your wife, Lauren said, choosing her words like weapons, understood how to blend in. She didn't insist on being the center of attention. My vision tunneled. My wife had scrubbed floors so Alex could go to college. My wife had fed people who barely acknowledged her existence. My wife had never once made anyone feel small. I tasted metal in my mouth. You don't get to speak about her, I said. I'm just saying, Lauren continued, some people know their place. It's not an insult. It's awareness. That was the moment. Not the Christmas ban. Not the condescension. That sentence. Some people know their place. Something inside me finally broke free of the last illusion I was holding onto, that if I just stayed patient, if I just kept giving, respect would eventually follow. It wouldn't. Because they didn't see generosity. They saw weakness. This conversation is over, I said. You can't just. I hung up. My hands were shaking now. Not from fear. From containment. From decades of swallowing disrespect because confronting it felt too expensive. I walked into my small home office and opened the drawer I'd been avoiding for months. Bank statements. Mortgage documents. Automatic transfers. I laid them out on the desk, one by one, like evidence at a crime scene. Every month. The same amount. The same silent sacrifice. I added the numbers. What? Then again. When I reached the final total, I had to sit down. It wasn't just money. It was time. Dignity. Choices I'd never made because I was too busy funding someone else's comfort. The next morning I canceled the payments. No ceremony. No speech. Just a calm voice on the phone and a simple sentence. Yes. Effective immediately. When I hung up, the house felt lighter. But the disrespect wasn't done with me yet. At 10:42 a.m., Lauren called again. This time there was no pretense. My parents' flight lands at O'Hare at 2, she said. You'll need to be there. I almost laughed. You just told me I wasn't welcome at Christmas, I said. And now you want me to be your driver? That's different, she snapped. This is family responsibility. Family. The word felt twisted in her mouth. I'll send you the flight number, she continued. And Daniel, make sure you dress appropriately. They notice those things. I looked down at my hands. The same hands that built their kitchen. The same hands she was now ordering around. What happens if I don't? I asked. Pause. Then cold and precise. You're not in a position to challenge me. That was it. Not anger. Not yelling. Just absolute certainty that I would comply. I'll handle it, I said. She hung up without thanking me. I never went to the airport. I made coffee instead. Sat in my chair. Watched the clock move forward without me. My phone exploded with calls. I turned it off. When they showed up at my door later that night, furious, humiliated, shouting, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Control. And when they threatened me with consequences, I realized they still didn't understand. They thought shame would bend me. They didn't know shame had already been burned out of me. They had pushed me too far. And now I was done being quiet. The newspaper article came out 3 days later. I saw my face before I read a single word. Black and white. Slightly outdated. Cropped in a way that made my eyes look heavier than they were. The headline sat above it like a verdict already decided. Local man abandons elderly couple at airport during holiday travel rush. I didn't spill my coffee. Didn't curse. Didn't even blink. I just sat there staring at the page, feeling something settle deep in my chest. So this was their move. They didn't want resolution. They wanted humiliation. The article was carefully written. Just enough truth to sound believable. Just enough distortion to make me look unhinged. Quotes from Lauren's father about confusion and concern. Mentions of my emotional state since my wife's passing. Not a word about the mortgage payments. Not a word about the Christmas ban. Not a word about the years of quiet support. They hadn't just tried to hurt me. They tried to erase me. I folded the paper slowly and set it on the table. Then I stood up. For years I'd been reacting. Apologizing. adjusting, shrinking myself so others could stay comfortable. That was over. If they wanted the story public, then the public would get the whole thing. I didn't rush. That was the key. Rushing is what desperate people do. People who are still hoping to be forgiven. I wasn't. I spent the next 48 hours doing something I hadn't done in years. I planned. Receipts, bank statements, canceled checks, mortgage records, every payment highlighted, every date aligned. 5 years of support, laid out cleanly and unemotionally. Numbers don't raise their voices. Numbers don't exaggerate. Numbers don't lie. I printed copies. 12 of them. Because according to Lauren's own social media, they were hosting Christmas Eve dinner for 12 guests. 12 witnesses. Christmas Eve arrived cold and gray. The kind of Chicago winter day that makes people grateful for warm houses and full tables. I dressed carefully. Not to impress them. To respect myself. The navy suit I'd worn to Elena's funeral. The one thing I owned that still felt like armor. I parked across the street from the house in Naperville and watched the lights glow through the windows. Cars lined the driveway. Laughter spilled faintly into the night when the door opened. They were celebrating. On my dime. I checked my watch. 7:12 p.m. Dinner would be underway. Perfect. The door was unlocked. Lauren liked the idea of safety, of trust, of neighborhoods where nothing bad ever happened. I stepped inside quietly. The warmth hit me first, then the smell of food. Expensive food. Catered. Because of course it was. I walked toward the dining room. And then I heard her voice. Some people just don't know when to let go. Laughter followed. I stepped into the room. 12 faces turned toward me. Shock rippled across the table like a dropped glass shattering. Lauren froze mid-sentence. Alex went pale. Her parents stared like they were seeing something inappropriate, something that didn't belong. Good evening, I said calmly. My voice didn't shake. That surprised even me. This is a private event, Lauren snapped, recovering quickly. You need to leave. In a moment, I replied. I just need to return something first. I placed the folders on the table. One in front of each guest. What is this? Someone asked. Documentation, I said. Context. The part of the story that didn't make the paper. Her father stood up. This is harassment. No, I said quietly. This is transparency. People opened the folders. Silence fell. You could hear pages turning. Breath catching. Chairs creaking. I watched their expressions change as the numbers sank in. Mortgage payments. Down payment. Renovations. 5 years. 6 figures. Someone whispered, "My God." Lauren started talking fast. He volunteered to help. This is being taken out of context. Then why wasn't it mentioned? One woman asked, staring at a bank statement. Why wasn't any of this in the article? Her father's face tightened. This man is unstable. Unstable? I asked. Or inconvenient? I pulled out the newspaper and placed it beside the documents. That article describes me as dangerous, I continued, for refusing to pick up people who told me I wasn't welcome in their home. After I paid for it. No one spoke. I turned to Alex. You knew about this money, I said. You knew about Christmas. Did you know about the article? His silence was answer enough. Lauren's mother finally spoke. You said he was exaggerating. Lauren looked trapped now. Cornered by truth instead of accusation. I wanted you to know who was really hosting this dinner, I said to the guests. Who paid for the house you're sitting in? And who was told to stay away because he didn't fit the image. I closed my folder. I won't be staying, I added. But I won't be paying any more either. I looked directly at Lauren. Merry Christmas. And I walked out. The fallout was immediate. I didn't need to be there to hear it. I could feel it in the way voices rose behind me as I stepped onto the porch. Accusations. Questions. Damage control collapsing under its own weight. That night, for the first time in years, I slept deeply. 3 months later, the foreclosure notice arrived. Certified mail. Official. Final. I set it aside without opening it. It wasn't my problem anymore. Alex came to my door a week after that. He looked smaller somehow. Less certain. Like someone who'd finally realized confidence borrowed from others disappears fast. I messed up, he said. Yes, I replied. I didn't protect you. No, I agreed. He nodded slowly, like someone accepting a sentence they'd already earned. "I don't want money," he said. "I just want a chance." I thought about Elena. About boundaries. About dignity. "A chance," I said, "starts with respect, not requests." He nodded again. And for the first time in years I believed he understood. Justice doesn't always look like punishment. Sometimes it looks like withdrawal. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like letting people sit in the consequences of what they chose. I didn't destroy anyone. I just stopped saving them. And in doing so I saved myself. This story hit you, really hit you? Hit that like button. Comment below. Where would you have drawn the line? And subscribe for more stories where dignity wins. Because respect should never be conditional.